We always talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, but today we're going to meet a successful applicant outside of those fields. We're going to meet a musician. We're going to meet George, the musician. He's going to tell us all about his case. And remember that in this channel, we talk about green cards like EB2 NIW or EB1A, in which you can be the owner of your own future, just like George did. You don't need to have a company sponsoring you. You can do it without a job offer. And you can also do it without hiring a lawyer, saving a lot of money. So hi, George. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here with all of us.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so George, you are a special case because you are a musician that succeeded at EB2 NIW. You have your I-140 approved. So I think this conversation is going to be very interesting because you are outside of the typical profile. Okay?
Yeah.
So tell me an overview of who is George professionally.
Sure. My name is George. I'm a freelance musician in London. I play the trombone professionally. The life of a freelance musician is quite turbulent. I do lots of different things. My specialty is within commercial music and specifically musical theatre. So I work as we call it depping. America call it subbing. So deputy, substitute. I cover for people when they are not free to play on a show regularly. That's kind of what I get up to. Be it on the West End in London or on national tours around the UK, I will get random calls, sometimes pretty close to the mark, saying, can you come to Birmingham tomorrow and cover on this show? Alongside that, I do lots of different things. I play with some orchestras. I arrange music. I'm not a great composer. Nothing original from me, but taking something that someone else has done and adapting it is kind of my thing. So I do things like that. Alongside that, I have a part-time gig, as we call it, where I work at a music conservatory in London, Trinity Laban, which is where I studied for 6 years, supporting the students there with their musical education, as it were. So there's a lot of strings to my bow, to use a musical quote.
Yeah. So why the US? I think you had some exposure to the US, but why did you decide, okay, I want to go there. I want to continue my career, my life in this country?
Always kind of been a bit tied to America. My parents got married over there in '93. And then there was this kind of thing where when you turned 9 in my family, you would go to Florida for 3 weeks. That was kind of what we did. So my sister went when she was 9, and then my parents took me when I was 9. The catch there was you're young enough to get the child tickets for everything, but you're tall enough to do all the big rides. That was kind of the thing. So that was kind of it. And it kind of snowballed from there. I started going back a little bit more regularly. And then I did 2 J1 summer work travel programs in 2018 and 2019, working for Disney in Florida. I did the Disney College program, as Americans would call it. And in that time, I did a significant amount of networking with musicians based over in Orlando. I got really lucky one day and ran into some musicians that work for the company. They were walking to their set and I was on a break, stopped them, said hello. And there was just we vibed very well, as it were. And I spent the summer practicing and rehearsing and spending time with these amazing musicians. And in turn, meeting other really, really important people in the business. And it was from that moment where I kind of went, this could be quite fun. I would love to have a go at ending up over here full time. So it led to me doing that second J1 in summer of 2019, meeting some more people. That was the first time I had an interaction with an immigration lawyer, actually, and then auditioned in 2020 to work for the company as a musician.
So we're always talking about Disney?
Yeah, this is Disney, sorry. And was not successful because coronavirus, and also I didn't have the right to work. But I kind of expected that, but it kind of snowballed the kind of, I would really like to have a go at this. And being stuck in lockdown gave me a lot of time to think on what I would like to do. And to kind of dive in a little bit deeper, there's a lot of musicians in the UK, and the UK is not very big. So you
So you
know,
know a lot of people, you know each other.
yeah, everyone knows what's going on, and everyone is trying to get each other's work. It's a particularly hostile environment, actually.
Oh, okay.
So if you can hack it, which I'm managing, it's good, but it's sometimes quite hard to sustain, and you've got to really get on top of it. Whereas everyone seems really great over in the States.
Yeah.
That American optimism, as it you know, really kind of shines through in their musicians, and it's kind of rubbed off on me.
I like how your story was really starting with the trips to Disney, I guess, when you were little, to then working in that company and deciding after that rejection, which I think that's something that many of us can feel represented by, that feeling of, I know I have opportunities here, but I don't have the right to work. And it's too difficult to get that right.
Exactly. Especially in the music world, because sponsorship is hard enough as it is, let alone for something within the creatives where it's very sort of flexible in what you do. So even things like an O1, which is designed for performers, is really difficult to then have the freedom to do other things, which is critical to being a musician, to being able to answer that phone call that says, oh, can you come and do this tomorrow? And then for me to say, sorry, yeah, no, my visa says I can't do that. It's not good for your reputation, and that would make it much harder for me.
And they will not count on you to do anything. Yeah. You just touched on something that I actually thought when you reached out to me. I didn't know you personally. You are a course member, but you, like many other people, decided to write an email, which I really appreciate when you got your I-140 approved. And I thought, as a musician, why not go through an O visa or an EB1? I know the requirements are not exactly the same, but it did feel interesting to me that you decided on EB2 NIW. Why? How was that research?
Sure. I am not good enough for EB1. I'm just not. I looked at the criteria and no, I'm good.
You thought it was too high.
Some of the things that they're asking for is just a little bit too much at the point in my career. Give it 5-10 years, I may very well be in a good position to do that, but that's too late for me. The O1 was never going to be able to find an avenue that would work for me. With what I'm looking to do, it was just going to be a bit tricky. So looking over at the EB2, I met the advanced degree qualification and saw the angle for national interest waiver, and kind of toyed with the idea for a bit time, actually, because I always thought it always seems to be moving towards STEM.
That
was my presumption when I read things like that. I thought to myself, yeah, music is not in the national interest, but upon doing some additional research, it kind of then started to kind of show itself in a new way, especially with the things that you can do to kind of make your case starting to come into play. Also, I was just at a point where I really wanted to give it a go and
try it
anyway. So
and I think so. Anything is of national interest as long as you are able to put together a good reasoning, arguments, a good case. So I think it is excellent to have you here, so you can tell this to everyone. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what project you propose, and then we can go back to how you research and how you learn about all of this. But because I know if we keep talking, it will just come up. So let's start with prong number 1, which is you have a proposed endeavor that is it has substantial merit. Who cares? But it has national importance. That's the thing you were talking about. So what did you say to USCIS?
I proposed starting either a 501c charity or an LLC company that would share the British culture of musical theatre and instrument tuition with as many people as I could share it with. I kind of realised that Britain does music very differently to the rest of the world. The continent, as it were, mainland Europe, has its own way. America is very different, and I thought that needed to be shared with people. So that was the idea, and then just trying to make that as accessible to people as possible. But in a nutshell, I can't remember the endeavor statement off the top of my head, but it was to do with cultural enhancement, to kind of expose the average American to music that might be a little bit out the box, a little bit out of their comfort zone, and to give young people an opportunity to learn more about music from around the world, and specifically from Britain.
And this is a good point, that even though even myself usually advocate for, if you can talk about economy here is good, but that doesn't apply to absolutely everyone, and it's not really mandatory. I mean, you can always make some sort of case, even if it's indirectly, that you can benefit the economy, but there's other ways to talk about national importance, and this is a good case. We're talking about culture, about music, about diversity, sharing knowledge. I mean, we all know that is important, but then, of course, you have to make an argument. So did you find good references where the US government showed interest in this kind of thing?
Yeah, got lucky. President Biden in September of 22 there was an executive order about additional funding and promoting the arts, so performing arts, and even things like library services and all of that for culture enrichment. So that was great. That was a great start. And then there was an executive statement from like the office of the White House that deals with the budget saying, yep, we're going to pump more money into this. I found some Senate bills and House of Representative bills that supported music, and kind of used they put some data within those bills talking about how engaging in arts programs, is going to result in a better, broader education, even if people aren't going to, specialize in music, and talk about how it improves, like, not just that, but like individuals' well-being and violence in schools going down. All kind of like positive data was already sitting in these pieces of evidence. So that was pretty handy.
No, that's good that sometimes you find these documents and you are not only happy because you found, President Biden saying something, but they are also giving you the numbers to
I mean, I think I maybe overdid it on the evidence to support national interest. I had 24 pieces of evidence for that.
Wow.
Alongside all of the other evidence that I had. My petition was quite thick at the end of it, but I just kind of, it wasn't like big quotes per thing. I just found lots of things over the years. I think I used the Fulbright scholarship program that America offers as an example, because that's America giving their citizens financial aid to come and study abroad and share their sort of creative art with us at our universities over here. So I was kind of like putting that on the flip side, being like, we clearly value this kind of cultural exchange. So
and this, together with what you said earlier, that the Office of something budget management or something was saying we are going to put money here. Whenever you can find evidence that the government not only says this is important, but it is important and we are going to dump some money here, that is stronger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to explain your endeavor to them, did you just provide an explanation throughout that chapter for Prong number 1, or you also had some sort of more detailed plan attached to your petition?
I had a professional plan attached to the petition, loosely based off of the one that you supply in your course, but then expanded to kind of sit a bit neater to the company that you suggest in the course. It's really bit stupid of them actually to leave that many examples publicly available, but it was really helpful. So I kind of dived in a little bit more in the professional plan, not about sort of like my background and stuff, because I didn't want to repeat information twice, breaking down the finances of how a project like this would work, how to receive funding for projects like this in the US, and how it would result in XYZ. I tried to paint a clear picture as to what could be the result of something like this.
And the more detail you give, the more credibility you get. And I also like that you said, I took whatever plan is in the course and made it mine, and expanded it. And that's what anyone should do, because there's no good copy-paste solution here. I can explain things in the course, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to say, okay, now I'm going to make it mine.
Yeah, and I felt like that was really necessary with my own case, solely because you fall into
It's
STEM,
unique.
and
Mhm.
I really don't. So I had to, it was a great template, but then you really had to find a twist to make it work.
Yeah, you need to understand, the fundamentals of it, but then you have to do your work, and it's a lot of hours, right? I don't know how long it took you, but
I didn't time myself. Maybe I should have. It was, yeah, it
but
was a
it's
lot.
another job.
Yeah, it was a lot of late nights. I locked myself away. Pretty much. I have 3 housemates here in London, and they didn't see me really for a bit. I just I got home from work, I would lock myself away, and I would be watching your content, taking notes, and then writing the petition and all of that up until the early hours of the morning, when I finally told myself, yeah, it's probably time to go to bed.
Wow. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back with George. Let me show you my websites. If you are serious about this process, take a look at eb1greencard.info if you are interested in EB1A, or eb2NIW.info if you are thinking about EB2NIW like George did. I have a lot of information for self-petitioners like yourself, but above all, what I suggest you to check out is my online courses. If you want to be like George, do what he did, enroll in my EB2NIW online course that you have on screen right now. You have the course curriculum. We have 10 modules full of video lectures where I will walk you through the requirements, how to meet the requirements, and how to put together all the documents you need for your successful petition. You can submit questions in each lesson, and once a month we meet in a live session so you can ask me directly and we get to know each other. So, what are you waiting for? Join us! So let's move now to prong number 2. Prong number 1 is about what you will do, but prong number 2 is why they should trust you with that endeavor. Why you, George, you are the right person. So your profile, your credentials. So what was the main? What were the main items you provided there?
I think I put 6 things in. I gave, this was actually quite a big chapter for me. It was not as big as prong number 1, but it was pretty sizable. I started off with just talking about like key things that I've done within the industry so far, trying to showcase my skill set. So I listed things about the theatre shows that I've played on, because that's really important. And under all of these, I added the relevant quotes from recommenders and stuff. And I was quite lucky. I had lots of letters of recommendation, so I had lots of different quotes to throw in.
I was going to say, I remember from our Instagram post that I think you mentioned 20 recommendations.
I had about 20 letters of recommendation, 13 people who knew me and 7 people that were very happy to just, that I knew but I hadn't worked with,
independent. But that's, I think you are one of the one with more letters that I know.
Yeah, I really felt like I needed to balance it out, because there's not a lot of like hard evidence within creative arts. There's lots of me saying I did things, but there's not a lot of paper evidence that does that. That
is an excellent way of using the letters. Talking about original contributions, in your case, where you perform, played, what you contributed. You need someone to say, yes, it's true.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. So under each thing that I listed, I had someone from that field that was able to kind of justify it. So I spoke about the theatre work that I did. I was very fortunate to be involved in the King's coronation over here. Nothing fancy. I was working at Heathrow Airport as a musician, but however, we were due to play for the King. But there was some strike action, and the King's not allowed to be exposed to strike action. So oh well. But we did play over the coronation weekend, and we're heavily involved in sort of the marketing and all of that for that specific company, which was a really good thing to put down. I spoke about some arrangements of music that I've done before. I mentioned one has been copywritten and not published specifically. It is published, but you can't get it. Under lock and key, but by the Walt Disney Music Company, which is great. And I put the copyright information in there, so I just supplied as much as I could within sort of like key things that I've done. And then underneath that, I then went on to kind of talk about the physical things, the scholarships that I've received and the awards that I've gained. I listed my membership in professional associations and things like that, just to basically say this is me ticking the boxes that you are asking for. Go into heavy detail. It was just like, I'm a member of this. The evidence is in the petition.
I know you said in a few occasions here, you said, well, I'm not that great. I'm this is not that good. But from someone that is not an expert, what I'm hearing is, you are definitely above average for the moment, also in your professional life, because that is also important. When they judge you against your peers in a similar moment of your professional career. It's not, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair, right?
No, I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on this in a bit, but one of the immigration lawyers that I consulted with was like, why aren't you going for EB1? And it's like, I'm really not. If I get an RFE, I'm going to be in trouble. I think being like, I have all of this on my side is great, but then when you try and balance out the EB1 requirements of like, I've been asked to judge the work of others and things like that. When you get into like the nitty gritty, in lack of a better term for it, that's when I thought like I was going to become a little bit stuck.
I understand that quote unquote fear. I mean, but I'm sure you could have made a case for EB1, but like you said, maybe it was not a super strong case. So I understand why you decided.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of discussed my process with colleagues within my field. The amount of musicians that would laugh when I'd say, oh yes, I'm talking about national importance here. They always got a bit of a laugh because, like I say, music people don't really presume that that's going to be super significant. But then I would kind of go into detail about what was required from the next tier, and all of us within my field were kind of unanimously going, not yet. But
But I think you were creative and found your own way to really show national importance in a smart way. Because one common mistake that people have, even in STEM, is to just say, I'm going to do this, just talking about their profession. It's like if you go and write, I'm going to be a musician in the US. And that is important because music is important. I mean, we all agree with that, but that is not good enough. No. You have to present a project. And in your case, you went with this nonprofit idea with a cultural component, British, American culture exchange. So I think that was very smart. And if you didn't have that, then your only option would have been an EB1. There's no question.
No.
Because in EB1, national importance is not that important. It is there, but it's not that important.
Yeah, it's about the skill of the person. And maybe with the help of someone else, maybe in this case, maybe if a lawyer was writing on my behalf, then I might have trusted them. But I'm sure we'll touch on lawyers in a moment. But
okay, so let's talk about that. Sure. It's one of my favorite topics. So I know you engage in conversations with lawyers. How did that go? Why did you decide to do it yourself? How did you use lawyers, if any?
Back in 2019, the president of the local American Federation of Musicians Union in Orlando connected me with their immigration lawyer that they work with. We had a brief meeting, but I was still studying my undergraduate at the time. And then when I started getting real serious about this, I mean, it's been on the cards for a couple of years, but there was a moment around about December that just made me go, it's time, I need to do this. Because I then started learning about things like priority dates and whatnot. And I need to do something because I wasn't going to be waiting.
Get in line.
I started doing some digging on the internet, came across a set of videos from a company, an immigration law firm that were giving what I considered at the time to be particularly informative videos, reflection, not as great as they once were. Reached out to that law firm. They quoted me $18,000 plus the fees. That was far too much money. Also, upon doing some digging, they were not registered where they said they were in the US. They were in fact registered in Brazil. And I lost trust in them immediately.
I think I know who you're talking about. We're not going to say names, but
no, you're fine. But yes, it's probably who you're thinking of. And interestingly enough, just to quickly sidetrack, it was a suggested thumbnail on the right-hand side to one of your videos that gradually drew me away from this particular law firm. Just a fun anecdote there.
Algorithm.
So I then started just asking around, contacting various law firms, and just kind of trying to gauge if this particular figure financially was what I'd be looking at, or if they are really too much. Spoke with a couple of other firms. There was one firm based in Florida that wanted a lot of money very quickly. And then there was one firm up in Chicago that I thought were quite good at the time. And then upon doing some research, their lawyer had a lot of litigation against them concerning EB5s. I just gave up on the process. But a friend of mine, I was able to connect me with an immigration lawyer that specialized in EB2s in Georgia. Had a brief conversation, and that's kind of how I determined what I wanted to do, because by that point, I'd already put the money in for your course, because there was a part of me that just went, I'd like to have a crack at this myself. I'm bored of people to get back to me. And at the time, it was very much just I saw that your materials were available for purchase just on the website. And then doing some further digging, I realized, okay, so there's more to it than just getting the material here. There's lots of content that could really be useful. So I'm going to give it a go. And then it was from those conversations with this particular EB2 specialist, and same again with the performance specialist immigration lawyer. I'll pay the consultation fee. Don't look at anything in advance, obviously, because you're not taking me on as a client. However, I would love to have an hour times before I submit, just for you as a lawyer to read through and say, or you might want to change this. The wording here is a bit off, things like that. And that's kind of how I ended up using it. And I just used him to have a quick read through the prongs to make sure it was working. So I didn't really invest a lot of money into it. I realized that there was an offer on, your website for it and stuff. But as you've said before, those slots book up pretty quick. I know. And, I just, the opportunity presented itself where I could use a lawyer without having to pay them.
And that's a smart way to do it. And I have said it more than once that if you can find a lawyer that you trust and you can pay them hourly, go with that, right?
And that was the problem, finding a lawyer I could trust, because I was met so many times with illegitimate firms, companies that aren't what they say to be. And there's so much animosity concerning particularly immigration. I mean, lawyers in the US aren't great to begin with when it comes to finding someone that is legitimate, because it's such a huge market. But then when it comes to immigration, that's such a sensitive topic. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there with bad intentions.
There's a lot, and more. I can see that as man's progress and there's more demand, there's more scams, there's more even things like fake profiles on Facebook of people impersonating lawyers as well.
Exactly. So I just I lost trust in the system a little bit, and had to rely on the two people that I'd found that could work for me. But it took me about a month and a half to find the people that would work for me. So
what was your timeline then? When did you really started preparing and then submitted and all of that?
I started going back to the US the minute restrictions were lifted, pretty much. I realized that my network had been kind of not broken, but it had been a comfortable amount of time. So I started doing a lot of digging from January 2022. I started going out once every 6 months with the intention of rebuilding my network and learning more about what it's going to take. It was from December of 23 that I came back from a trip which was really productive in regards to like prospect and opportunity, that made me go, cool, I need to get on with this. January was when I started to really knuckle down to learn more about it, where I started watching lots of online content, learning about priority dates and getting nervous about the timeline. And then I paid for your course midway through February, worked tirelessly, because maybe this was the wrong intention. I wanted to meet, I would have loved to have got a submission in prior to everything changing in April.
Oh, I see. Before April 1st. Okay.
It was a nice deadline to meet. However, it was a real challenge to get recommenders to meet deadlines.
That's usually the limiting step, because it doesn't depend on you, right?
Yep. And it was so challenging to push people higher than me in the industry, especially in a reputation-led business.
Especially 20 of them.
Yes, it was particularly challenging. However, they all came through in the end. I did a submission. I sent it off on the last week of April. I'm sure we can touch on this in a moment, but it was rejected immediately on funds. I didn't wait for it to come back to me. I just printed everything again and mailed it off within the space of a week. So I think my priority date is the 15th of May, 24th. That's when it arrived, and I got my approval on 7th of June. Yeah, the 7th. Yeah,
because you did apply for premium processing.
I did, yeah.
So now you're waiting for priority date. You will do consular processing, so it's just a matter of time, right?
Yeah, just playing the waiting game. I don't mind. Looking forward to October. And everything resets. Because right now it just feels very stagnant. And I don't mind. I think one of the reasons that I went for EB2 instead of like trying to kind of push for EB1 is not quite ready to go yet anyway. Got a lot of things that I would like to do in London before I leave. So I don't mind waiting.
The wait. Also, once you know it's going to happen, well, it's just waiting.
I know it's coming. I don't mind. I've kind of told myself, maybe 2 years, something like that. If I was suddenly being told, yep, it's current, you've got X amount of time to, get your life sorted out, to then suddenly uplift and move 5,000 miles across the Atlantic, might be more stressful than having these 2 years to kind of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to figure it out,
You have plenty of time to do research on where you will settle down, what will you do,
this is how to actually move countries. I don't know if it was the same with you leaving Spain, but there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done with the UK government to let them know that I'm leaving. Student loans back here are done via the government, so I would need to inform them that I'm leaving so that I then repay my loan correctly. Things like that. It's a very long-winded process of lots of steps of becoming what we call an expat. Right. So, I don't mind having to wait. Fine by me.
Well, don't tell anyone, but I never notified Spain I was leaving.
Oh, really? You say that, but I'll just get taxed like crazy.
I see.
Somehow.
You know the main difference that I never worked in Spain. I started my career in the US already.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah. So
no, it's the unfortunate case is even though my student loan debt will be wiped if I don't repay it after 40 years, they are still going to try and get their money back out of me. So I need to go through the appropriate steps to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. Otherwise, I don't want to find myself in deep water after moving.
Yeah, you'll have time. That I can almost guarantee, and I cannot guarantee many things in this process. No. But so we are getting to the end. Is there anything that we left on the table, or any advice that you want to give to people who are watching right now? Yeah,
don't let the amount of STEM success deter you if you are creative, because it turns out it's actually quite doable. That is the advice. Just if you think you can, probably have a go at it, because I don't know if I got lucky, or it just proves that this visa category is certainly within the grasp of any field. So
first of all, I say again, I think your credentials are pretty good, but on the matter of the discipline, the artistic approach, and all that, I think you did your homework, right? You didn't stop at I'm a musician, I'm important, believe me. You crafted a good case, and that should be the lesson for anyone watching. If people are still watching this video up to this point, that should be the take-home message, that you need to do your work, and you did it. So luck, yes. Everything is luck in this process because it's a little bit subjective, but you did your part.
Yeah, if you're willing to put in the hours, then it pays off. You just got to be willing to knuckle down and commit to it if you're going to do it yourself.
Well, perfect. So thank you so much, George, for spending quite a bit of time today with us, and good luck in the time you have in London, in the UK, waiting for this visa bulletin to move, and then in your new life in the US.
Amazing. Thanks very much.
Thank you.